I eventually made a career change and I transitioned from working for the courts as an official court reporter to a captioner for the deaf and hard of hearing. A common misconception is that all deaf people know sign language, and they don't, especially late deafened or those who may have served in the military or with age. You know, some people lose their hearing. So I use the same equipment that I use for court. I just have a different audience. So as opposed to hearing, you know, criminal cases, medical malpractice cases, I can be anywhere that, a deaf and hard of hearing person can be, and they are everywhere. I've been to a number of universities. Actually, I had a pre-med student at a deaf pre-med student at Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. I've had law students. I was at Howard University Law School, Georgetown University Law School. The student just graduated this past spring. I also had the opportunity to go to NIH, National Institutes of Health. There was a deaf patient who had brain surgery. It wasn't an aneurysm, but he had brain surgery. And when his neurosurgeon came into the room, and the staff was actually more fascinated, or they seemed fascinated with my equipment and how I do what I do. Just like, I would be fascinated by how they do what they do. And so we were talking, and I told the neurosurgeon that, I was a brain aneurysm survivor. And he said, "What hospital?" Which I think is a common question for a doctor. I said, "Thomas Jefferson University Hospital." He said, "Good hospital." I said, "Robert Rosenwasser." He said, "He's a legend." And he had met him at some point in time. That made me feel good. I mean, I knew he was a good doctor, and, to have someone else, say that or confirm, makes it feel even better. Um, so I also had the opportunity to provide captioning at the White House during the Biden administration. It was for the ADA and the Rehab Act, Americans with Disabilities Act, and the Rehabilitation Act. It was the anniversary. And I was there as a cart captioner. And as it meant a lot to me because President Biden is also a two-time brain aneurysm survivor. So that really meant a lot to me for someone who had been through what I had been through, and to be told my chances were 60-40, and then find myself at the White House is like, to me, it's like amazing. It's like, where do you go after the White House? I mean, it looked good on my resume. I've been to Disney World, but, it was a good feeling. It was a career plus for me. And so I've been to, a number of federal government agencies, doctor appointments. I used to say when I was pregnant with my youngest son, Julian, I would say, this baby's going to be a triathlete. And the reason I said that is because my first trimester, at that time, I was living in New Jersey and I was commuting to Philadelphia. So I was doing a lot of walking, back and forth, to catch the bus. And then my second trimester, I was riding my bike until I was 6 months pregnant. And then my last trimester, because Julian was born in August, I was in the pool. I love to swim. That's something I've always loved to do. And I was very active with Julian because I was thinking about all the weight that I had gained when I had my first son, and I didn't want that to happen, with the second one. So I just stayed very active. while I was riding my bike, the doctor at 6 months, he told me to stop. And so, like I said, that last trimester, I was in the pool, and I know I made the high school lifeguard nervous, but, everything worked out well. I had Julian, and who would have thought years later, at the age of 64, that Julian's mother would do her first triathlon. And it was amazing. It was like the greatest feeling. And I only trained for 3 weeks because I had just found out about it. And so I'm thinking, I did all three of those disciplines all my life. I was never an athlete. So for those 3 weeks, I worked on, my endurance, and I was a water fitness instructor at the time. So I was very active. I was in the water with my classes, getting those workouts. I had two classes on 2 days of the week. So I worked on my endurance, and I got through that triathlon, which was in Philadelphia. And that was a good feeling too, because it was like sort of my comfort zone because I had lived in Philadelphia. I didn't finish first, I didn't finish last, but I finished. And that was a great feeling. And I also did it this past July. I did it also. And to have been through what I've been through and to do something like that, it was, yeah, I just can't explain, how good that felt. And so